Alright, so I'm going to record here real quick. If you hear any in the background, I'm going to turn it down. Anyhow, today's task is we keep having reoccurring power or lack of power issues. So what I think it is wiring. So I came here to my friend Handy and Susan's place, and they let me ship some stuff, and they also kindly enough let me work on it in their driveway, which is awesome. But I don't know if this is kind of the test period because they're in a new house. But see, this is the transmission line, and it goes through this connection here, through this little thing, and it's like pinch joint on that corner. And I'm afraid I'm gonna undo that because I think that's where my bad connection on my transmission is coming through and why I'm having shifting issues. So that's going to come out. We're going to check this and inspect this entire wiring harness. We are also going to pull the turbo off, the intake. We're going to pull this valve cover off and replace this valve cover gasket because we're still having problems with lack of power. So we're going to replace this valve cover gasket, rehook up the electrical in there, just do a general inspection in there with all this tore apart. Then we got a new wiring harness that we're going to replace on the top of the engine. We're just going to, it's a little $100 Amazon wiring harness, but we're going to hook this up today. And this is a lot of wiring, but we're going to hook it up. I figured old Amazon wire is going to be better, or new Amazon wire is going to be better than old regular wire. As far as I could tell, there was not any difference between the E350 and the F350 on the engine wiring harness for this. I'm hoping there's no issues. If not, we'll be remaking this wiring harness too. But this should be our right side, and our left side I will check it with my schematic that I have found online. And we will replace it, and it should take care of some of our problems. We're going to inspect both our valve cover gaskets connection, make sure there's no burning there, because it still sounds like I have one cylinder that's not running right now. But when that side's off, because it sounds like it's coming from that side, I think we'll just see if we got a stuck injector or something like that, and we might just pull an injector too, now that I know how to do that. We also got new up pipes for going on here. We had an exhaust leak coming out of this thing. We're losing half our boost out of just this side because we weren't getting enough turbo boost. We also got a new muffler, and we will visit that after we get all this back together. And I got some exhaust clamps in here. I also have this for the door to see if we can get the door sealed a little bit better, because it has such a big one, it's hard to find. That one's going to go up front. And we're just going to generalize this, go through and do the electrical. I'm going to disconnect the transmission electrical and just go through the whole wiring harness on that one too. We're going to unthread it so it's not going in a sharp bend. We're going to look for bad wirings because that's where I'm at on all this problems. I'm pretty sure it's just bad electrical stuff. Our glow plugs are not starting right now, or using, which I don't know if our relay's gone bad, but the new wiring harness will take care of that also. It's just going to be a lot of disassembling and rehooking up wires, and I have to disassemble it so far just to hook up wires. So that's the downsides. We might see about adding some size to some of these wires, the more ones that I feel like need more adequate wire, so we'll go with that. When we pull off the old wiring harness, we're going to use it as a template to make us a high quality wiring harness by using the old wires, inspect them, and see where our problems are. So we may end up doing the wiring harness replacement twice, but that's okay with me. Oh look, it's missing a clamp on that one. That's annoying. They all missing? Nope, just this one. I should have one that'll fix that. So that's alright. And new power lines and everything else. But by the time we get done with this project, and if we rewire the other one, we will be very intimately knowledgeable with this engine. That's what I was looking for. And if we can't get these loose off, where we pull this exhaust up pipe off, we can come in here and cut it off with the Sawzall on both sides. And that should allow us to separate it, but I don't want to do that really until I at least get one side off. We are also going to pull the turbo off and check the gaskets around there, make sure they're not leaking, and just do a general inspection on the top of the engine. But it's easier to work on if we pull the turbo off, so that's what we're going to do and go from there. So anyhow, that is today's task, and so it's going to be fun and a pain in the butt. A fun pain in the butt. How about that? Okay, where is my small socket? So this is my new tool organizing method. I want to have a good thorough test on it before I mentioned it. I'm just trying to find the best way to organize my tools and not spend a lot of money. These 1 gallon plastic bags hold up well enough. They do break down after about a month or so of regular use. I mean, I've been into them a lot. But I just put my certain tools in each one and label them. And so far they seem to be working good. When they rip, I just replace the back, and it's way cheaper than a tool holder for now. I got these discounted ones from Walmart I'm testing out right now. They're on sale for $3 for a pack of 5. They're thicker, they're reusable. I'm hoping they'll hold up a little better than the big plastic bags. Otherwise, I'm going to be looking for a heavy-duty plastic bag and still use that. I like it because I can look in and see my tools or the cluster of tools I want to grab. And it just throws in the bag, and it just is nice for travel. It's better than a bucket, a travel bucket on your bags. So we'll see how it'll last. Alright, this is going to come off. I'm going to pull my intake completely off for now. That way it's just easier to work in here. I wish I could just delete this thing right now. It's annoying. But once I get this out and I pull this wiring harness off and kind of pull it apart and just look it over, I'm pretty sure right now, because the problems come and go pretty regularly enough that I would say it's internal, or it's wiring harnesses anyhow. I'll try to throw these back in their holes, but we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna set that down here for now. Put it right there, so I'll lose it here in a bit, but probably not. Okay, I need a flathead screwdriver. And actually, it looks like our blow-by problem has stopped for the most part. I mean, it's still happening, but not as much, so I don't know what was up with that. My assumption is I had a clogged exhaust and it's causing issues. Or I do have a clogged exhaust. I guess there is still a little bit more. Stubby screwdriver is good for this engine. So, and as soon as I pull this intake out and the turbo off, we'll get a lot more room on top of the engine. It's just you gotta have double jointedness to work on this engine in a van body, and you gotta have a good core. And yes, it's a pain in the ass. I know why no one wanted to touch it. They made too money to make it worth their money, time to work on these engines. So yep. And I'm guessing they've had so many people as full-time come into their shop and have them work on it, and they didn't want to work on it because of that. I don't know if that's it, but I see why. And yeah, I'm a little annoyed. The $22,000 for the mechanic shop was just pay me to work on it kind of thing. That's our pay me in time that I'll do it for that. Yeah, sure, I'll do it. That's what that was. Forced me to learn. I've been learning this whole time about this engine. I've had to find some other resources to find information about, but yeah. We still may have a stuck injector, but we'll have to get into that again after we do this repair. So anyhow, there we go. That's off. Now you gotta go pull the intake off from the front side, and then we can just lift it all out there and go that way. Alright, lift the turbo off. It's leaking oil, so we're going to take care of that while we're here. I kind of figured it might have been. Looks like it might be leaking a little oil over here. That might have also came out of the turbo too. It looks like the gasket's gone. I might pull it off and just check the gasket on that intake too while we're here. I mean, I'm just here for preventive maintenance, but you can see this thing. You see how that moves? Oh, let me see if I can get it. See how this moves? Apparently that movement's enough to make me lose a cylinder or two, which makes me think that there's something more going on. Let's see if I can pull it off. I can't pull it off. I had to get in some pliers underneath and pull it off. But this is what's kind of the inside ones that went out, but this one's going out. But there's also this wire here. You can see how it's nice and movable here, but this is not movable. Like it's broken here and up here. So there's that. I think replacing the wiring harness will fix almost all our problems, but we're going to go ahead and take care of some leaks while we're here too. And I'm going to just go ahead and pull a turbo press off, and we'll put a little silicone on here on the inside, this very lightly, and on this one to keep this from leaking. This one doesn't even look like it's sticking up high enough to really seal right now. So we'll do something to help this seal better. And we'll go ahead and pull this off and just inspect the intake, and that way we have the wiring harness off, and everything else off, and we're gonna put on the stock temperature gauge, and then we're also pulling this wire off and doing the inspection as we go back together. We'll see and check the intake, and then we can also look down the cylinders if we pull this off. So we might do that too, and then go from there and just take advantage of the time we have sitting here. And then while we let the liquid nails stuff set on this, which I just found out that I can just order new gaskets for that and not replace the pipes. But I'm going to do it because I have new ones, and I want to be punished a little more. But this one was leaking a lot. It was leaking on the side and underneath. It actually is leaking so much that it melted the flag on my Reen manufacturer sticker here. And that's probably lack of my boost and some of my lack of power. It's just a lot of things. So we're just going to fix it all. As you can see, I have a little exhaust leak on my turbo pedestal, even though I replaced the pedestal gaskets when I got the new turbo. I have a solution for fixing this. This seems to work every time, but it involves I have to clean out both races for the high pressure and low pressure side of the turbo pedestal O-ring seals, and once we have it cleaned out, we're going to take in some silicone or something like that, and we're going to very carefully squeeze it in there to help take up some of the excess space to give it a little bit more resistance to allowing oil to come out of it. And as you can see, I am cleaning up right there, getting it ready to prep. Just trying to get just a little bit around the edge of it, just to fill it up enough that it still blooms out on the inside, but it also prevents the oil from getting out on the outside. As you can see, I'm precisely trying to get in there with the screwdriver and get it out, just cautiously. It's in. Just trying to get all of it on the inside. Just want to cover that back little radius in the pocket there for it. Now it has to set up for about 12 hours before I can run it, but that won't be any problem. It's part of the reason I'm doing this early. And I'm just trying to get a little bit more out of it. I don't want any of it to end up in my oil bearing in the turbo. I do take extra means and extra efforts to make sure that my vehicles don't leak oil, and when they do leak oil or substance, it annoys me to death. So as you can imagine, I got a couple oil leaks on both my vehicles right now, and this bugs me. Actually, I don't think I do anymore. I think I got it fixed the other day. Regardless, this is an attempt to fix it. I will probably never pull a motor out to fix an oil leak, but eyeballing it there, make sure it's nice and level. Now it's time to finish cleaning up. check it for level, make sure it's still sitting proud of the flat surface there, so get a good seal on it. And then we're going to set it aside and go to work on other tasks. You let that sit for probably a good 20 minutes. When we go back together, it should go together just fine. It just needs to be just proud or just taller than the flat surface there so it seals. And not too much that it doesn't seal well enough. This one wasn't sealing at all, I don't think. Well, one of these was because there's oil in there. Could have also oiled in there, but there's engine on top of the motor, which also makes me think. Record a little bit here. So we got that gasket thing sitting out there soaking. Why is it fighting me? The gasket for the turbo pistol is soaking up there. I'm going to clean up the top of the fuel bowl because there was oil up here and the bottom has oil, like the rear main seal goes out. That's how you know there's something up here leaking. I'm going to clean up here again, and I'm going to go ahead and pull off the mid intakes here. And we'll get this all nice and shiny so we can tell if we have a leak again. But it'll drain out and then it'll end up on the bottom. That's how you know. It's not really a real main seal leak, it's just these things start leaking, and this is where it comes out. It's designed to let oil out the bottom. So everything I read on it, this has 6 very large bolts holding each cylinder on. So a head gasket leak are so rare on this. This is why people are able to overpower them by so much. That's why people love this engine. You just replace the turbo, or you replace the turbo isn't really more power. This controls where your power is at. So if you want lower end, you put it like a certain size turbo or a different turbo one. It's where you want your power at. Not really a power, but you can add bigger injectors in the stock port with no machining modification, bigger fuel lines, bigger exhaust. Basically, you do a lot of stuff to open up a lot more power on this and get higher gas mileage. Right now, we're just trying to get it back to the power we had before we had all this problem, which I am pretty sure it's all electrical at this point in time. So that's why we're just trying to get that done, and if we want to modify it later, we can, but we got to be able to get down the road. And right now, we can barely get out of Candy's driveway, which is a 4-foot hump, which is nothing. And this side keeps coming unplugged. It keeps pulling loose. You can kind of see it when I jiggle it right there. You can kind of see it. This loosens up and it's not getting good connection. So we got a new wiring harness that's coming in. Next thing to do is shove some tissue in the holes that go in. This one can stay out there because this goes out. We gotta pull off the Y pipe here and shove some tissues in there, and then that should give us enough room to access the this part of the wiring harness here. We did not get a new transmission wiring harness, so we're going to just disconnect it here and disconnect it from the transmission, and we're going to take photos of the whole thing, and we're just going to inspect it, and we will fix what needs to be fixed, meaning that if it has a bad spot on it, although communication lines, they want it done a specific way, and we'll do that too if needs to be, but we'll probably just run a new wire if we have it and replace it if it's rock hard. What I think is happening is, because see, I can hold this here, there's no looseness in it. Now either they have a rigidity rod in there to hold it stiff like that, or all the wires in here, most of the wires have work hardened to the point that they have no flexibility in them, because this thing should be a lot more flexible, and it's more flexible up here than it is here, and here it's a little bit tight too. But either they work hardened to the point that there's no flexibility, which means they'll start cracking and breaking, so we're just seeing the start of the whole horrible process, what's going to happen to the engine if I don't do this. Or they have a flex rod in there and there's just a bad connection somewhere, which I suspect the connection's up here in this area here, if there is a bad connection. The other reason that makes me think that there's bad wiring, or this is all tied to wiring at this point in time, because my loom, this plastic loom on top of it, this is okay, but some of this other stuff's starting to crack and break. So it should be really flexible and easy, but you see how I can just peel that off. That's usually a sign that your wire's going to start breaking too, if your loom is breaking. basically it's been on there too long and it's starting to break down over time, and that's what we're running into. And I'm also seeing some possibly chew marks or scratch marks on the wire. So up here up front, I'll show you. Yes. You see this wire right here? Let's see. You see this wire right here? You see how there's a cut there, and you see how it's green? That's the copper oxidizing, and if that's gone all the way into the wire, that can cause issues that we're having too. But you see how there's like little scratch marks on it, which also could be this. It could be mice and it could be age, but see how the tape is coming off too? That's age related things, and we can just have time to do it, which Candy's going to give us the time, I think. Russ might give us the time. See how that breaks too. Everything's breaking up here, which means it's just aged out. So more likely all our problems are tied to this cracked wire somewhere. This needs to be undone so I can pull the transmission line off. And then after we get all that done up here, we're going to come up here and just trace this wire, unhook it, pull it out, trace it back to this because I'm getting a wiring error coming off of this. And we're just going to trace all the wire, and we're going to just do an inspection on that, which involves pointing this off, but we got to get the top of the engine stuff done first before we come back and do all this. And by the time we get that done, and if we can ever get that new computer module here, that should cover that. We got a new brake boost on order, or here, that needs to be replaced. I need to sit down and do it, and then I can get 50 bucks from AutoZone, and I can drop probably 100 pounds out of my rig of just parts weights, because this is also leaking once that's done. And maybe I'll tell me what's going on with the alternator, because I'm getting an error code from that, which there's too many this random stuff everywhere happening that the only thing that ties them together is a wiring harness, and a bad wiring harness. So that's what we're going to do, and hopefully we can move on from this and move on to other projects that we actually like to do versus have to do to get down the road type thing. And life will get good once all these things stop, which honestly, electrical wiring is my wheelhouse. I do have a tech degree in electronics technology, among other things. So this is one of my actual fortes, and it's amazing how many shops don't know how to do electrical stuff, and the mechanical stuff kind of comes too. I tear into my vehicles quite regularly anyhow, but I'm hoping once I drop the Y pipe off of there, it'll make doing the wiring easier. But yeah, that's just weird that this moves that much too. And this might be burnt up, and I got a new wiring harness. Yeah, it's made in China, but you know, a new made in China will do better than an old broken one. So we'll try to pull this off. I'm having issues getting it to release, which is probably part of the problem. Yeah, but that's why we keep having runnability issues. You see how that moves? See how much space is there? And it's hard to see right now with the lighting. That is our problem. Our constant problem that we keep having where we lack power. I'm pretty sure the mechanical side's okay. Anyhow, let's just go ahead and start pulling this off the rest of the way. Just a quick interruption. I'm disconnecting wires. I got this one that goes to the turbo pedestal. I got this as an air intake heater and ground and positive. That's setting aside. We got the things unhooked so it won't start now. They actually look okay, but I'm still going to go through the wiring harness and look for some stuff because I know I have some shorts going on anyhow. I also found out that the glow plug wire is loose. That's why the glow plug's not running. For some reason I have a gap there and there's not making good connection there. I think I will go ahead and inspect the wire because the insulation is so brittle it's falling off. However, the new wiring harness does not match the layout of the old wiring harness. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear into this wiring harness and just inspect the wires. And then if we need to, we'll rebuild up the other one. I would like to do a brand new one, but I need one of these to be good enough to work. So I'm going to document it as I tear it apart, label everything, and we should be able to get it back together. It just might take a little longer. I'm also going to go ahead and start pulling this off. I went ahead and removed this, whatever this wire is. I do have a wiring harness, wiring schematic for this right now. There is a little nick or quick little bend here that could be a break in the wire, could be one of our issues, because we're having transmission shift issues and runnability and start issues, and this could be our start issue right here, that the glow plugs aren't coming on or making good contact. So that could be our start issue. This could be a broken wire on one of the other ones, fuel pump relay or one of those other ones. Actually, I don't know what this might be the air intake heater relay. I'm just going to start pulling these off and labeling them so we can get them back and recording where I get them from. It does look like the old wire is bigger and thicker than the new wire, so I'd like to stay with the bigger, thicker wire because it'll hold up better, provided the wire is okay. So we'll just be going through and cutting apart the wiring loom and inspecting all the wiring as we go down. That'll give us a good idea of what's going on anyhow, and then we'll be trying to remake the new wiring harness in the same layout as the old wiring harness, and just put that in there and see if we can get the new wiring harness in there and get us good wiring, and then we can completely rebuild the old one at a later point in time when we have time to mess with it. I do have to make sure this runs when I leave, but that was a given. That was going to happen regardless. So we'll just start tearing into it and see what we can do. I'm going to try to first get this one off so we can tear in this transmission one, because this one I don't have a spare one, and it'd be nice to get this one running right because we are having shift problems. Also, we have a transmission leak on one of the return lines or the feed lines for the transmission cooler line, which we need to inspect that, and also check at the color of the cooler. I finally found the instructions on how to read the proper level of it. So it looks like it has a proper level even when it's warm, but it is leaking down there. It did not leak before I took it into the 4.3 or 7.3 specialist. It was clean, so they either pulled it off and inspected it and didn't get it on right or something like that. I also noticed a new thing on my pitman arm. So the pitman arm on the left has more threads showing, or the driver's side pitman arm has more threads showing than the passenger side. The passenger side has less threads showing, which makes me wonder what the heck is going on there. I'm not saying that they did some stuff to my rig or didn't do stuff or did a bad job, or they just underneath my rig for a very long time whenever I was watching them. So I probably shouldn't have left my rig there alone. I just figured it'd be okay, they'd work on it, and I could go do my laundry. But anyhow, we're gonna just go through it and inspect everything, and more likely, like I keep saying, it's just more likely a wiring issue, just because of how the randomness of different components are giving us things. So we're going to do the top of the engine, then we're going to move to the front and mess with everything up there. But like I said, we're not going to completely replace it unless we think we need to, but we're going to have to re-wrap the wire loom because of the position of where it goes out. On the pickups, it comes across here, and there's a wear point where it connects here, but on the vans, it goes up front. And we have the van, so we're going to be working everything from the back of the van. All right, there we go.